Adam Bates, Chief Marketing Officer at XION. Welcome.
Oh, it's nice to meet you, Peter. You might have the honour, don't think it'd be a pleasure actually, being the first proper podcast I've done since I've joined XION. I've been on a few spaces, but you're the one that actually wants to record my ugly face.
I feel
Don't,
honored.
well,
And
don't choke in your coffee, eh?
well, let's I think we have a lot to talk about today. XION is it's not necessarily a household brand, but though it's been making some waves recently and would love to hear about the project. But you come to XION from with a really rich history in blockchain. You spent a lot of time at Cardano, um, and would love to hear about your time there, how you entered blockchain in general, and then we'll get into XION. Does that sound
Okay,
good?
of course it does. And also, just on some housekeeping, if I'm talking too much because I'm in marketing, just give me a timeout and say, whoa, 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 stop, we're running out. I am used to it, but I'll just keep talking until you tell me to stop, really.
Should we
Um,
have a safe word?
Stop.
Okay.
Shut up. Those sort of things. You might as well be open and direct. So, um, well, let's start at the very, very beginning. I am a crypto immigrant. I'm not a native. You can probably tell that by some of the little bits of grey and a few things in here. I'm very much started off in Web 2 and then drifted into Web 3. And what drew me in was actually, I turned it down, to be honest, to start with. Someone said you should go and talk to IOHK as it was and talk to Charles about Cardano, and I knew a bit about Ethereum and a few other bits and pieces, and Bitcoin, etc. But I said, I don't really know if I'm the right fit for this. I've always worked in tech and finance and nano satellites and launching, contactless payments. I've always liked this tech. And so the recruiter, obviously because he'd like his 20-30%, said, well, probably talk to Charles. Okay, fair enough. And I did. And he's a lovely man. He's one of the nice, kindest, sweetest people you'd ever meet, one of the most intelligent. But we didn't talk about blockchain. We just talked about creativity and everything from Samurai Warriors to Studio Ghibli to how you build a brand out to what you like, what you don't like, just tone of voice, languages, just all this creative stuff. Nothing to do with blockchain. And I guess, and it's going to sound a little bit pompous, it's sort of like a meeting of minds, really. We were both pretty creative at heart, and my job was to amplify what his ideas were and to bring them to life, and probably vice versa. Yeah, and that's how it started. If I'm really honest, that deep technical knowledge of blockchain and everything is not what I'm about. I'm a marketeer, and it's about making it simple. And because my background is in creative, I was a creative director and I was a writer before that. We were always told, this is what you do: 3 words and a banana. And if you can't tell your story like that, then you're not doing it. And I guess for XION, they're one of the few blockchain brands out that says, make crypto disappear. 3 words. And that directness, I think, is something that's missing. But I think with just going back to the Cardano thing, yeah, we had a lot of fun and we actually made it a very, very popular, well-known brand. Some people love us, some people hate us. But I think the time that I spent there was probably one of the most enjoyable I've ever had. It was certainly the most intense. It was certainly the most fun. But we created some amazing marketing and we built an incredibly strong community. Not just me, not just Charles, just everybody in the whole team, because that's how it works. But yeah, it was a perfect storm. It really was a perfect storm.
Now, if we were to generalize what you just shared, you take what Charles says and some of his vision, his ideas, and then you make it simple for the audience. How does if there were a blockchain project listening to this with a highly technical founder, and their job is to do the same thing, how do you recommend to them? Like how do you go about doing that? Since a lot of technical founders are just they love buzzwords and jargon and complexity.
Talk to your mum, talk
Okay.
to your nan, talk to the biggest and ugliest guy in a biker bar, tap him on the shoulder, and you've got one sentence to convince him not to smack you in the mouth so he understands what you're saying. And it really is that simple. And we get so wrapped up in it in our space. And it's hard. There's a phrase I was making Jean, one of the co-founders, laugh. I just said the phrase, "If I had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter."
Mhm.
And
I
it's
think Mark
very,
Twain said something
very,
like that.
yeah,
Mm.
and it's true, and it's not easy. And yet, when Apple do think different, and they go, "Well, there you go, that's the culmination of 6 months' work and a $10 million bill," and you go, 2 words, man. But it's just something that sticks in the mind, and it's hard. It's hard to get there, and in a business where everybody's trying to do stuff fast, I think that's why so many of the brands look and feel the same. You can put your thumb over most websites and over most logos of most brands, and they'd all be saying the same thing in our space.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very few have a clear go-to-market position. And I mean, Berichan got a great look and feel. Would you know what they stood for? That could be a different thing. And I think at least one of the things that we created with Cardano was the DNA, the audience that were going on. We were scientists, at heart. We had more white papers. Charles was a scientist. He loved that. I mean, he would read white papers to relax. Most of us, it gives us hemorrhoids of our cerebral cortex. But it was true. That's why, involved with Carnegie Mellon University and other great research institutions as well. And I think that now is paying dividends for them. So I would urge, back to your question, any brand or any project out there, be true to themselves and just try and understand what makes you different, what problem you are solving, and then will the world be better with a Web3 solution? Because if it's not, then there's not much point of you existing, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just lots of things within this space and marketing. But you're right, there's the good days where there was massive treasuries, you were building stuff as passion projects, unlimited money, you could code to your heart content. There is a new era of reality coming in now where it has to be run as a business. And I think that's going to hit home, and that's where brands will make a difference. You might buy Nike over Adidas over New Balance. They're ultimately just shoes coming off a production line, but you associate with the DNA of the founder or the people or the attitude. It just hits home.
One thing I'm very encouraged by is the movement that I'm seeing by founders in focusing on user experience, user interface design, and also simplifying their language and abstracting complexity away from the user. I'm seeing this more and more now, and I think it's about time. I mean, it's the only way that crypto really makes it to the mainstream, becomes appealing to the mainstream. And at some point, we'll even stop using the word crypto or blockchain altogether.
Please.
Eventually, right? No, this is really great. I appreciate you sharing your how you came to Cardano, what you learned from there. Tell us about XION. Maybe explain for the audience who haven't heard of XION. A quick headline, and then tell us a bit more detail about it.
Well, I could do the sort of pitch on it, I guess. They have 200 plus. They're an L1, and they've got 200 plus AAA clients on board, like Uber, Amazon, Burger King. We just announced today Havaianos. They're like Brazilian beach flip-flop brand, Travelex, Aperol Spritz, North Face, Lego. So first of all, you all talk about, hey, we're going to onboard the next billion users, and whoa, we're about mass adoption. The thing that appeals to these guys is that they're starting to work with an awful lot of these big brands. And what's beautiful is these brands actually probably don't know they're working with us. It's just a piece of technology working in the background, which is how it should be. You don't need to know how your iPhone works, how your Tesla starts, how your GPS tracks you. You don't. It should just work seamlessly. They're well funded, I think up to 36 million, behind them. And there's some pretty big names in there as well. So that gives you the reassurance. They've also always been in New York and in America, which, there's a lot of companies trying to break in there, but they've toughed it out. But probably the thing that I think sets them apart is their line about make crypto disappear. And I think I always thought the biggest barrier to Web3 adoption is UI UX.
Mm-hmm.
They have most most blockchains and most crypto projects have a 95% drop off when people try and sign up to use it. Hey, we're the most technically advanced product in the world. But first of all, guys, could you get a paper and pencil and write down a secret word? I mean, come on. I mean, how do you think Facebook? Do you think Facebook would still be going if you had to do that? And so these guys have a 3% drop off rate. So you put aside anything to do with the benefits of Web3 and trust, but the idea that users can use it really easy. I mean, you can log in with your finger, you can log in with Face ID. There's all these Web2 user experiences that Web2 don't care about Web3. We think we're special. We're not. They probably don't even know we're called Web3. And so everything that we can do to make it super easy, not to change that user behavior, and to make it really straightforward and intuitive, that's what I do. And that's the appeal of XION, really. I always, if I had a very, very, very selfish goal, I would love to be able to stand up in my local pub or my local bar and say, hey, I work in blockchain and crypto, and not everybody go, the devil. Look at Squid Games recently. Squid Games, some of the people that are in there are because they lost money on crypto. And this is a Korean-based game, TV series, and it's got, the one out trades the dollar a lot of times. And even there, crypto's got a bad name. I mean, I was out there and I said to someone, could I just take my picture with you? No. Why? Well, you're in crypto. Well, I tell you, should we just share on TG? No. If they find out I'm connecting with you on TG, it could be my job. It's like, whoa, guys, and you're out trading the dollar a lot of times. So anything I can do to change that from a sort of selfish point of view, but also make it easy for people to build and develop and get into it, I would have done my job. That's really that simple. And I think these guys, because of the brands that they've got on board, because of their approach, because they try and keep it really simple, and also the final thing in our space, and probably with a lot of marketing, is that you need a very charming, charismatic, personable, humorous, different CEO. I mean, if you watch a lot of football games, whether it's American football, and usually the coach, I was with the team, they work really well together, they played the best, but it didn't quite go. And you're just like, God, it's just Monte. Look at Anthony, or Banksy as he's known, and just look at his character. And he reminds me very much of other CEOs I've worked with that have this spark and this fun and this energy. And you just can, and Charles as well. Charles had a personality. And I think that's really, really important. And it doesn't have to be nasty. It just has to be true to the brand. And I think one of the massive reasons joining them is they're all fun, creative people. And I want to wake up in the morning and be fun and be creative and just do something people notice. It's there's this mediocrity of marketing that is just based on data and being safe is just like, boy, it's just really dull.
Yeah. You mentioned the 3% drop off rate. How does XION accomplish that versus and what's the standard in based on some of the research you've done?
Well,
crypto.
Remember how little time I've been there, Peter?
Yeah.
So I can't give you a full technical insight. All I know is that they very, very simple. Like you could log in with Face ID or with your finger or with an email, or you can log in on your Xbox, and you don't have to have anything to do with a wallet. There are no gas fees. So you think of all the barriers. I mean, just do an idiot's guide, let alone be nice UX.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, so you and I are going to go to a restaurant, okay? We're going to go to a restaurant. Before we can come in, I need your special phrase. Okay, right. Now, can I remember? Okay, but hang on. So now you've got to go to another. Peter Adam, can we go to this other restaurant over the other side of the city now? Okay, so we walk there. That's great. All right, so we're going to sit down and do it there. We're going to have a meal there. But we can't take your credit card. By the way, you're going to have to go to this other store and buy the magic Peter and Adam token, and then when you come back, okay, then you can order my food. And you just wouldn't do it. And you're laughing, but we take it for a norm. I mean, you just wouldn't do it. There's too many things in the way, and the fact that even if you could log in, I mean, oh man, do you see this? Do you see this device here? Okay, now this is a mobile phone, and you know what? Not many people in our space will let you build on it.
Hmm.
Strange that, because I don't think it's going to catch on. But I mean, it's just real 101 stuff. Your user has a behavior. You make it easy for them. Whatever you think of Amazon or iOS, their UI UX experience is amazing. They
Mm-hmm.
tweak it and tweak it and tweak it to make it work. Like, I was reading a story or listening to someone just saying some of the things that tweaks on one of the travel things. It says, instead of it going your flights, it said my flights, and it increased sales by 5%.
Yeah.
And Sky, part of Fox, I still think it was the most beautiful buttons ever. I get excited by a button. But when you've been through a really long process, and then it says pay now, and you go, what am I actually paying? And how much am I paying? And it just put pay $25. And to me, that was the most beautiful piece. I love UX. I can spend hours just on one thing, because it just makes it really simple. There was an app, I'll just go, and then you can do time. Worked for a while on a fintech product. It had one of the most beautiful bits of UI, UX, CX I've ever seen. So you open your banking app, and it's green. It says, you're spending less. Would you like to save some? Yes, that's it, on your home screen. It doesn't ask you what's the APR, what's the interest rate. Would you like to restake it? If it's red, it goes, spending a bit too much. Do you want to
Mm-hmm.
transfer some for your saving? Now, it make it effortless and easy for you to do and get on with your life. And that's all we're trying. That's it, really. I can't give you the technical thing. I'm not a technical person. I'd be lying, and you'd spot a whole, source I talked about 4327 or 4237 and conversive snarks and all this sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
abstraction. I mean, abstract doesn't. Nobody cares, because you're abstracting something that nobody knew that they didn't want. So
You
don't
know,
talk about it.
I
That's my view. I'm a simple person in marketing. Yeah.
no, I appreciate that. I think that view, we need more of that type of that experience and that
Heretic.
viewpointing.
That heretic view, Peter.
My I went to grad school with a guy named Asa Raskin, and his dad is Jeff Raskin, the inventor of the Macintosh.
Nice.
And he used to tell us a famous quote that his dad would tell him, and I don't even know if he's known for this quote publicly, but he used to say that the best interaction is no interaction. And then he
Yeah.
would go on to explain that in various use cases, like in customer service, for example. The best experience is not having to call customer service, or
Yeah.
user interfaces. Some of the best user interfaces are guided. They really help the human. But what if you didn't even need that kind of guidance? It just naturally takes you to, it helps you accomplish your goals. I think that kind of thinking, we definitely need more of that in this thing that we're building in blockchain.
Yeah.
And
And it hurts. If you've spent
yeah,
your life building something and then it doesn't work, that's like saying your baby's ugly.
uh-huh,
So it does hurt. The other thing I'd say is the happy path is easy. Happy path, when it all works, is fantastic. The way your effort should go is the unhappy path. When
yeah,
something doesn't quite work, can you go back? Can you log in? What happens? I spent ages developing oops, sorry, and unfortunately as 3 error messages for a bank. It was like, oops, oh, maybe you should do it again. Sorry, we don't seem to have got that. Unfortunately, you're under 18. And even that had massive track. And I posted something about X, one of their messages that came up. Oh, try again. Hey, it's all right. And these little things, rather than saying error code 47321, you go, what is that about? And you'd be surprised how I'm telling you now, as an advocate for an error message on X, trying to do a post. That's what it's about. You just, even when it doesn't quite work, it's still a chance to engage because I was a writer at heart. So two really beautiful example. Keep off the grass. That was one. And they did
hmm
another one that just said, I'm new grass. I'm ever so tender and gentle. Please don't hurt me. Now guess which one that people kept off? That nice, charming human one, rather than keep off, don't go on the grass. And little things like, but it takes time, and it takes love, and it takes understanding to do it.
yeah. Well, how are you applying your learnings at XION? Maybe tell us
In what respect?
simplifying the message, maybe working with your engineers or product development on making the onboarding easier for users. I guess, what role does marketing at XION play in all of that?
I think, well, one thing is I've only been there a little while, so for me to have influence over the engineer and what's being built, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen yet because it's just I'm new there. I think marketing has a very simple role, and it comes down. A big idea is worthless if nobody knows about it. And my job, if we go back to the restaurant that we couldn't get into because it was really complicated, is I just have to get people into the restaurant. That's what marketing is. Now, if you can't make a decent pizza, a burger, whatever it might be, I can't do that, but I can make them want to come in. And I think that's what marketing does. I mean, there are rare exceptions like Apple that they could produce something like the iPhone when it first came. It wasn't really a phone. You couldn't make phone calls. You had to hold it like this, if you remember. Where you've got that brand loyalty, but you make people want to come in and learn about you. And there's some really simple tricks. One is make it easy to understand, make it easy to share. If you only did those things, so can I understand what you're talking about, and could I pass it to my friend? That's it. That's the ultimate thing for a lot of these products. And so many brands, and it's not just within our space, don't do that. And again, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's like, why should I care? Your time's precious, Peter. My time's precious. Why should I even bother trying to read or find out about it? So make it really easy for me to understand, either because it's humorous, engaging, it's in depth, it's insightful, it's in the channels and the place where I live and operate, and then make it say, oh, that's really fun, I'll share it. How often do you see something on IG or TikTok or X that you share? That's what you should be doing with your brand and your message and your story. So I think, everyone goes, I've got this playbook. Well, yeah, you might have. It's an experience book that says what it does or doesn't work. But I think that's all marketing can do. It can get people through the door. If you've got a great product, fantastic. You actually don't need that good a product, to be honest. You can have a great brand that people love, and you can have great customer support. You said that earlier. There are products out there that aren't the best, but people love the people that are there. Everyone thinks it's all about price and is it cheap, but actually, no, you'll go to some places and the food might not be the best. I'm using the restaurant thing. The food might not be the best. It might not be the cheapest, but the people there are lovely. And it's a great thing. Whereas you go to a high-end restaurant where it's got Michelin stars, but I feel really uncomfortable. So there's all these little factors that are out there. But ultimately, I suppose if you look down the community thing, that the one thing the community need is love. I think more than anything else, it's just to show that you care. It's a relationship, and it's hard. You need a particularly big team to do that. I think where they can give you time. One of the things I learned at Cardano, and we had some brilliant people in the community team, is that they spent a lot of time with them, and they talked to them, and they listened to them. And I brought in like the Cardano 360 show. It was a chance for them to showcase their products and be heard. It's like a relationship, communication. They don't have to have the best projects. You don't have to fund them. You just have to be there for them and listen to them and try and help them. And they're pretty basic things, really. It's like being a coach of a football team. You just have to get the best out of those players and make them feel wanted. You can do it through fear and the stick, or you can do it through kindness and the carrot. I'm more of a carrot person, I have to admit.
Now, if you were to guess, why do many crypto projects not do what you're recommending here, or even know about it?
Well, I think a lot of them are engineering focused. So they are an engineer's product built for engineering, and they've been very lucky with massive treasuries they haven't had to sell. And our business model is you wouldn't run any other business this way. The only value is in the speculation on your token price. You don't make a profit. So the whole business model is completely different, and you're operating in this little bubble where everybody you talk to is talking the same language, and it's very nice. And you're like on this little island, and everybody's really happy. We've got all unlimited money, and we've all got super rich, and we can build stuff. And then all of a sudden, as is happening now, the real world is sort of coming in and getting to your utopia. So I think that it is formed by engineers. I think they are, by nature, very protective of what they're doing. my experience, but not with all engineers. I've had some people say, Adam, will you shut up? If you've got something to say, put it in a report to me and I will read it. And I've said, fine. I'm not going to read any reports you send to me. I need you to talk to me. So there is this way of doing it. There is no science behind marketing. Yes, you can have data, but you can manipulate data to do everything. And I think that's it. And we don't need marketing. It's only usually when things don't work out that people blame marketing. But when it's successful, it was all down to the engineering and your own intuitiveness to buy Solana when it was only at 1 cent. But everybody, when it doesn't work out, likes marketing. But they don't understand how marketing works. Most people go, I'm not influenced by marketing. What's your favourite advert? Oh, Super Bowl ads. Love the Super Bowl ads. Oh, fantastic. Do you know what I mean? It's nobody likes to say that they're influenced by it, but I think a lot of projects they're all built by engineers, and that's fantastic. But like someone who's brilliant at this as an engineer across it is Musk. Why would you throw away the plane after every single flight? So he suddenly makes it the technology and what he's trying to do. And if you were to ask any of the founders, what is the problem you were trying to solve? Because the world doesn't want TPS. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's really said, what is blockchain or crypto trying to solve?
No, you're right. No, you're right. It's in many cases in blockchain, they come up with a solution and then they go backwards and try to fabricate a problem, right?
Yeah.
And but I think that kind of phenomena is pretty common in nascent industries where it's some level of innovation, it's brand new, and everything looks like a toy, and they haven't really figured out exactly what problems it solves yet. But there's a there, and I think it's kind of up to us to figure that out. And as we mature as an industry like we are right now, in simplifying our language and looking at all the points of friction, how we can reduce or eliminate those for the user, that's all super positive.
Yeah, I would say that just to build on that a little bit, which is a horrible phrase. I hate all these business. Oh, we're going to build on that. I'm going to reach out to you and all that rubbish. It is. We do like a bullshit bingo. You do that, you're in trouble. So all these stupid things, not allowed to say NFTs and all these. There's a penalty for saying these words that don't mean anything. But if you look, the point you make is really well made. But look at the big and most successful tech, Facebook. Facebook even originally was designed for people within the own college environment. I think it was called the Facebook. So it was designed with humans in mind. And then look at Apple, the 10,000 songs in your pocket. They just wanted people to be able to use their product. So they were always putting the user first. And I don't believe that blockchain and crypto puts the user first. And this is why I joined XION, because it's about putting the user in the driving seat and what they want. Pretty simple, but I'd say, yeah, Facebook, Facebook and Apple are two brilliant examples of where, and even Tesla to a certain extent, they just put in the consumer, the user first. And that's why they're massive brands.
Yeah. Tell us how XION puts the user first, and then maybe help the audience kind of understand about the XION as a layer one, some of the applications on it, and some of the more recent announcements. I mean, XION's made some big announcements with partners that are, household brands.
I can't, like I said earlier, I can't delve into all the technical stuff. I'm relatively new to it,
That's
so
okay.
I'd be lying. But things like, since I've been there, the idea that you could log in with Face ID. I mean, great if you could do that with most things. The fact that you could log in on your Xbox, the fact you don't need a wallet, the fact you don't need a pass key, all these things are what's designed. The fact there's a one-click launch, everything to make it super easy to get into it. So they're some of the key features. I think that's how they are making it easy. I think the language, and there are things that I would like to change and improve, etc. But they try to talk and speak in a non-technical way as well. I know the website and a lot of stuff has a lot of information on, and we'll refine that. We would like to make it feel and look like an app store where it was very much more intuitive. But they're getting there, and they don't use big complicated words and fancy diagrams and all these flows. And I think that when you look at the partnerships that they're working with, they're incredibly strong because they're household names, and that has two advantages for us. Is one, it opens the door. Because if you go, well, who the hell are you? So, well, we're working with Uber and we're working with Lego and we're working with North Face. It builds that trust, which an awful lot of blockchain projects don't have as well. And if I'm honest, those partnerships probably don't know they're working with us. And part of my job is now to amplify it. So they go, say someone like a bank's probably got 25,000 suppliers doing everything from toilet rolls to doors to computers to everything. My job is to make people go, oh, that's interesting. So the CEO of Lego were my client, so maybe I might have a little head start there. But they go, that's interesting. And so they take notice of you as well. So I think they are door openers in these brands, and it gives you a reassurance. I think that's really, really important. Rather, I posted something that just said an ecosystem, not an ecosystem. So they're brands that you've heard of. So at least we're trying to work with these and they're coming on board. Now we need those brands to go, wow, what are these guys? And there's a few things that I'm already working on for events and other announcements and other bits and pieces that will accelerate that. You'll get some even bigger household names that we will start working with. You go, that's interesting. I mean, even barriers to developing, just ways that, there's probably 10,000 Web3 devs in the world, and
Maybe.
probably a lot of them are doing maybe, yeah. And a lot of those are grant funded. We don't do grants. If you want to build something, we'll help. But our audience is Web2, Web3 devs, and not high-end devs either. People that want to learn it, and entrepreneurs. We use this line, believe in something, and it's like believe in your dreams. We'll give you the chance to do that, and we'll try and remove as many barriers to making you do that. My son, he's pretty bright. He should be able to build on it without any previous knowledge as well. And you should be able to see, rather than it just being on a very closed Discord group or a TG, it should be on TikTok, but it should be on Instagram, and it should be on Facebook. These places where the Web 2 and most people go. I was on a podcast recently, and someone's at the end of it, the interviewer, because they're all talking about Web 3, and he goes, okay, so what Web 3 apps do you use? And none of us did. That sucks, doesn't it? It just shows because we suddenly put a consumer head on. So
yeah, maybe take us through. So here's an example. I'm looking at the XION blog, and Uber, North Face, Temu, Prime, like some big brands. I would love to hear how, for example, how XION is working with Amazon Prime.
Well,
what does that look like?
I can do you a better one for Uber because I know a little bit more about this one. But it could work for them. So basically, it's marketing. So you're Uber, and you go, would you like to target the top 10,000 Lyft users? Well, I would. And I could be Robin Hood and say, would you like to or eToro target the top 10,000? Okay, prove it. That's where blockchain comes in and says, we know, we can verify. Oh, God, that's an awful word. Try and avoid words like that. You can trust Web3 that they are real users, so you can target them properly. And it's really that simple. It's not trying to do anything cleverer. So your marketing is more effective, who you reach out to. And so you just know these users are genuine users. That's it.
That's an interesting use case. How did the team at XION? Well, first of all, it's Earn OS, which is an application on XION.
Yep.
Was this is this a separate team or part of the XION team?
Right, you're asking questions from a newbie here, but they're not in-house. They're building on XION. So again, they're building something that is attracting brands.
Yeah.
And again, XION's in the background. Anyone that goes on to Earn OS, it rewards people that are helping these projects get off the ground, that are building apps and that. It's just making it nice and simple for users. And actually not users, it's making it easy for these brands to find customers. That's it, making it really cost effective. It's just, someone said to me, and we're like a marketing chain. Yeah, that's what we do. We're in the real world, really, where people want to sell. The way that we look at it is like, say, something like Shopify. Would you like to take your customers' money? Do you know what? I think I would. And you go, well, would you like to have more effective marketing? Well, probably, yeah. And it's honestly, it's not rocket science. We're just doing what what people want and what brands want.
Yeah.
But if you ask me again, please, you're the first person I've spoken to as a podcast, etc. So some of this deeper stuff. Anthony was here. He'd go, "Oh yes, it's a smart contract at the protocol level. Yeah, fine. Everything's 4327. Great." And actually, in a nice way, we don't really care. The engineering team builds stuff that works. We're not. We will rather buy stuff in and integrate stuff because it helps get to market faster and builds a better solution. Of course, we'll do that. It's like, well, I'd put a Mercedes engine in my Formula One car rather than build my own. It's like, well, why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a bit weird in our space where everyone's, oh God, chewing glass and all these stupid phrases. You might see some really interesting marketing around that in a bit. Why? It's like, why would you want to chew glass? Wouldn't you want to be, eating a burger? Why are you proud of putting yourself through pain?
Yeah.
Don't. That's all we're trying to do. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. You're referring to a phrase that's used at the Solana ecosystem. That
I love Solana. I think they're brilliant. I really do. I really like them.
But that phrase has helped to solidify, because they've gone through a lot of ups and downs and peaks and valleys, and that type of going through trials together helps to solidify and create a culture. And I think that's really one of the pretty special things about the Solana ecosystems. They went through a lot of trials, and so that phrase is really kind of part and parcel of what Solana OGs have gone through, and it kind of bandies them together. And I think that's pretty special. But I hear what you're saying.
Oh, it is. Everybody trying to build any new technology is really, really hard, and I have a huge amount of admiration for them. Yeah. It's just, I guess, where we are at XION is we respect and admire all that hard work, but actually we're just trying to break down every single barrier, every single thing to make people. You can work with Solana. This doesn't stop anybody wanting to do anything. It's just a way of getting your customers not to drop off.
Yeah,
it's really that simple. You're going to build a new app and you wouldn't want to lose 95% of your customers. Just build it on XION. It can still run with Solana. It doesn't matter. This is what I tell you. What the really weird thing was, Peter, is there's not much hatred for XION. Saying this will probably all go horribly wrong, but it's like, some of the people that wished me luck and that when I joined and were nice, they're just like, because I seem to feel we're doing it for the good of the whole of blockchain, and that sounds arrogant, and it's not meant to be, but you could just use us. We have no gas fees. You could just use us. Anybody, just drop us in there, use it on whatever you want to build, and that's it. And it'll work, and then your customers will stay with you, and you won't get those barriers in the way. But yeah, I love Solana. The one thing I would say, respect to Solana, they're bloody good at getting to market fast. They have one hell of a marketing engine. When NFTs, and we don't say that word, were really popular, they opened space in Hudson's Yard. They were there, and they were first to understand meme coins. And I actually think meme coins got a really bad rap. I just think of them as Pokemon cards and collectibles. They're just fun.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want something named after? Anyway, come on, you can do that.
Let's go back to your restaurant example. I think simplifying it at that level is really, I think it's pretty fascinating, and it really helps to put things in perspective. You want to attract people to your restaurant, and you can attract them in various ways. How you treat them, maybe your menu, the price, the quality of the food, but then how do you keep them coming back? And so the second part, I think, is one of the big challenges in our industry. I hesitate to say blockchain and crypto because you might yell at me, but we spent a lot of time on the acquisition part, but almost no time in how do we keep them? How do we retain
the old
them?
Retention acquisition story. Okay.
Yeah.
It costs you in marketing 8 times as much to get a customer to keep them. Crazy, isn't it? And then we're always chasing the new one. And if you look at the best ecosystems and communities, and I do Cardano, you just give them that love. You're always there for them. You keep making them feel that they're involved and part of it and not taken for granted.
Yeah.
So let's say, and I've never run a restaurant, but I've been to a few. So let's say I go in, what do you do? Well, then you update the menu. You do limited edition ones. You do special offers. You do things that make these people that have been there from the start feel part of it. Now, you could be a commodity like McDonald's, and that's fine because it's convenience. So it could be that you've got convenience change. You do not have to have the best and most cutting edge product that's out there,
Yeah.
but it just has to be convenient. You look at say something maybe like Coinbase, like eToro even that Yanni's built. It's just like it's really easy to trade. It's a convenient product. It's a utility. Don't think about it as anything more than that. It's just something that makes it super easy as well. So I think you've got a really good point there, is that we need within our industry to work on both. And I don't think at the moment we do either very well. I think we're probably better at retention. Once somebody comes in, we tend to keep them in a community, generally, unless they're just there as farmers and going for TGE. But generally, some of the bigger brands have loyal, have amazing armies. Look at XRP. Look at Solana. They've been through a lot and they stick with you. And I think the key, the key to that is just talking to them. And they associate and they love their CEOs and their founders and they make time for them. I think Sui are good at this as well. And they're just there. It's like your best friend. You got a problem, your friend is always there for you. You go and talk to them. And so I think there's a lot of, I think what blockchain, this is the ironic thing I've always thought about blockchain, apart from the word trustless for a couple, the most untrusted business in the world, and yet we talk about trust, is that we talk about we're for the people, we're human, and there's no brands out there that feature humanity. Not many of them act in a very human, kind, understanding, personal way. The language we use is not human. And so we're sort of killing ourselves, really. And I think maybe being an outsider, being from Web 2, building brands out there where you just know the power of certain phrases and words and how you behave and what you do is what it's missing. And a lot of times, you're coming into a tech company and you don't understand tech, then you're not one of the gang. But actually, you've got a good point there. I actually think our retention is very high in this space because we put so much emphasis on there. I think actually what we're not good at is getting people in the door of the restaurant. When they're in there, they'll stay there forever. But very few people know where it is. And in a way, a lot of brands want to keep that like that. Their communities are very, very protective of, they want more people, but only if they're our people. Just, do you know what I mean? It's a strange old business, this one. I'm still getting to terms with it.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time with developers recently, and one analogy or metaphor that I've heard used a lot in describing the Ethereum community versus other communities is this idea of the cathedral and the bazaar. It's a popular book. I'm sure you've heard of it or either read it. And that Ethereum is really the bazaar. It's a bunch of disparate, disjointed stores, but for some reason it kind of works together. And then there's Cathedral, which is very centrally designed. It's architected like perfectly, and it's central planning versus the bazaar. You've used the phrase, give your community love, and you don't necessarily see that in the Ethereum community. If you are a brand new developer in the Ethereum community, you're kind of on your own, and it's just up to you to read the documents. If you're a user of any application on the Ethereum community or on Ethereum, it's really up to the applications to be kind of user friendly. And so, given that set of affairs, where does love and taking care of your users, like how would you, I guess, what advice would you give Ethereum? I mean, it's where most people are just kind of on their own.
Well, that's their DNA.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even try to change it. This is what I said at the start. It's their DNA. Is if you're this devotee and it's like being a monk or whatever, and you're going to go and tread this path, on your own through this far with all these hardships to hopefully get enlightenment. Great. And there are people that do that. And there are
Yeah.
loads of people in the world that go through it. I can't change it because it's not true to their DNA.
It is
That's
what it
what they
is.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. If you're a scientist, you'll go to Cardano. If you want more marketing, energy, and fun, you'll probably go to Solana.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm saying. Is like politicians, and I always think of marketing like politics and like propaganda. They very rarely do what's good for the people. They do what's good for the party, and they change their policies to stay in power. And it's very rare. No, you're laughing, but it's true. It's very rare that they will just stick to their guns, regardless of whether it keeps them in power. And one of the things actually that crypto is pretty good at is sticking to its guns. It's like within its space, but you can't change it. You just don't. It's like you can't. I mean, I will be hopefully forever young and creative and a little bit non-technical and that. I'm not a technical person, and somebody that comes in at is completely different. And you'll go, well, actually, Adam, you're not the marketeer for us, but XION is because it's trying to take it Web 2, Web 3 and this mainstream. But you might go, actually, Adam, you don't know the full details of this white paper that Vitalik wrote 3 years ago. And I go, no, I don't. It's not for me. And so that's what I'm saying. You can't change your DNA, your character. This is what the beauty of podcasts like Joe Rogan is. It's like interrogation. 3 hours with Joe, your character will come out. It's very, very hard to act for that long. Like a talk with you. Eventually, if I'd have tried starting this off talking technical, within 10 minutes, you would have found a breakdown. I'm a marketeer and I'm creative, and that's what I do, and I try and make the complex simple. And so back to your thing on Ethereum, that's the path that you choose. You want to be a Buddhist or you want to go clubbing in Thailand? It's up to you, mate. Both of them will make you happy. It just depends what you want to do.
Part of the sense I'm getting from you is the way you explain things tells me that storytelling is quite important to you, and it's kind of part of who you are. Tell me more about storytelling and how you think projects in our space could use more of that.
Make it human.
Yeah.
I mean that sounds terrible, but make it. Wake up in the morning, Peter, and everything from the moment you get up and you put your PJs on or take your PJs off or use your facial rub, and then you go get your favorite cup of coffee, and then you want to message your nan, and just think about where blockchain or the product you're building could come in there. It doesn't have to be in there all the time, or you want to book some tickets to see Taylor or 21 Pilots. I say to Anthony, my favorite band, he knows. And you want to buy tickets, but you don't want to be ripped off, and you want to get home, or you want to find out that the babysitter for your children is going to be there on time, or whatever it might be. That's how you look at it, and you bring it into every day, and you don't make it too complicated. I mean, you might have seen. Did you see that we put a bid in for the Fyre Festival?
No. Tell me about that.
We put a bid in for the Fyre Festival, 200 grand.
Okay.
And it can go higher. It's like Fyre Festival, and everyone's going, "What the f? What the fire? Why you done that? Are you stupid? It was the biggest fire up ever." Okay? But we're a brand which has burning in it. But why not take the worst thing and the worst experience anyone's had as a festival and we'll make it run properly? So the bands will turn up. Your ticketing will be seamless. Your yurt, your Winnebago, your tent, your toilet, your water, your goji berry face rub, whatever it is, your llama bread head massage will be there, and we will show you how to run properly. That's why we're doing it. So there's a real example. So you think, I mean, in the UK we have Glastonbury. You heard of Glastonbury? Glastonbury?
The show.
Massive festival.
Festival.
You spend like 7 years queuing up, and then it says refresh, and you can't buy a ticket. And it's like, for some people, it's their holiday of the year. They'll spend all their money. You don't want that to screw up.
Yeah.
Blockchain can make that happen, and it can make it easy for you to book all these things and check it. That's why we're doing it. So coming back to the storytelling thing, it's like we're trying to take the worst thing there, and someone said it's just a joke. No, we're serious about this, and we'll make it into the best that possibly could be. Because for everybody else in the world, going to a concert, going to a football match, go into anything where you take your families and or your friends or you're safe is really important. So if we can make it so you can trust, it really comes, can you trust it? So it is storytelling, and it's just trying to make it human. Look, we all use the example of Jobs when he said 10,000 songs in your pocket versus the most powerful and variable MP3 player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a classic example, and you can go back whether you love or hated Steve Jobs. He said some brilliant things, and that's probably it. 10,000 songs in your pocket versus the best 10. Made it real, made it real and practical to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's where storytelling comes in. And yeah,
and
people.
that's a fascinating example. I mean, most crypto projects, they err on the the most sophisticated MP3 player in the world with these widgets and that widget and whatever, versus 10,000 songs in your pocket. It's just such an excellent example.
Yeah, and it's hard to get there.
It's
it's
very hard.
hard.
It really is.
To think it through and to do that. But that's where you should start from. Imagine, just build apps you can trust. Just build something people can. Even if you just use that word, the world is full of fake things.
Mm-hmm.
So why? It could verify. In theory, blockchain could mean that everything you brought off eBay was genuine. After drugs and people trafficking, forgery is the biggest illegal industry in the world. Wipe it out.
Yeah,
So whether that is a pair of Nike trainers or whether that's a Chanel and Hermes bag, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's where because the people, you work hard to save your money up to buy a pair of Nikes or Hermes bag. You work hard after the government's taxed you to hell to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it brings it in real.
Yeah.
And there's value in that nobody really tells that story. So storytelling is really important. To go back, it's when Peter wakes up in the morning and he gets his cup of coffee and he's very happy and he wants to know where it goes. And you can take more serious examples like where did your drugs come from? I don't mean the drugs illegal, but I mean your pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. Because hey, I brought them on the internet. They must be good. Yeah, right.
Well, Adam, this has been such an enjoyable conversation.
Well, thank you.
I think it's to a phrase you used earlier, the kind of a return to, you didn't say return to fundamentals, but I think you said return to reality.
Well, let's put the fun in it. Let's put a return to fundamentals.
Fundamentals. Got it.
This is my favorite quote. I'll leave you with this. There's a guy called Jerry Della Femina, classic Madison Avenue madman.
Okay.
And he said about advertising, it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on. And if you're not, you're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You just are. And that's what I love about the guys at XION. They're crazy, they're creative, they're fun, they're open. So you talk about culture. My experience so far has just been really lovely to work with. Really nice, really creative. I'm trying to get the sense of humor right. So there's sort of the New York humor versus the English humor. I'm just trying to figure that one out. But
yeah, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Well, thank you, sir.
Of course. It was an absolute pleasure. And thank you for making me feel so welcome. And hopefully there's at least 10 seconds that you can cut into a podcast.
Absolutely. All right. Cheers.
You take care of yourself. Bye-bye.